Good morning, everyone, and welcome to our webinar today. My name is Sean Courtney, and I'm the Marketing and Communications Officer at Connecting Up and TechSoup New Zealand. Our webinar today, Introduction to Microsoft Office 365 for non-profits, will be presented by Ryan Jones, also from Connecting Up and TechSoup New Zealand. If during the webinar you have a question, please type it in the question box on your panel, and we will answer them as we can. That's all from me, so I'll now hand over to Ryan. Thank you, Ryan.
Thanks, Sean. Thanks, Sean, and welcome to another exciting Connecting Up webinar, TechSoup New Zealand webinar. Today's webinar is going to be pretty interactive. We're going to demo some fun things about Office 365 and really show you what it can do and how it can do it. Sean said about asking questions. Make sure you do. Throw them in the question box. We'll go through questions as they come up. If you see something on the screen that you want to know more about, some of our most fun webinars have been demoing things that people in the audience have shouted out to see. So happy to do that as we go through. But to start with today, let's talk a little bit about what Office 365 is, what it does, and then we'll show you. So to start with, I'm going to get my copy of PowerPoint to work. And we're going to go to there. So what is Office 365? So the short version is it's Microsoft Office in the cloud. The slightly longer version is that it's not the same as the Microsoft Office 365 personal versions that you can buy from JB Hi-Fi and Harvey Norman. It's the Microsoft Office that you're probably already using, that you're familiar with, but it's in the cloud. And the big benefit of that is that the version that you're all able to access as a donation is actually the enterprise version. So you can access the enterprise version with all of the servers in the background, and we'll go through all of them in a minute, free, which really is the right price. Anyone who's seen my webinars before will know that free is the right price for anything, and so we can access that. And it really means that a lot of what is in Office 365 we've been able to do for a long time, but most organisations haven't been able to afford to do it, or we haven't been able to afford the resources required to maintain it. Now Microsoft are going to do that, a lot of that for us. So great, Office in the cloud, fantastic. Why do we need another thing in the cloud? So just quickly, the benefits of cloud software. The big ones, as far as I'm concerned, are flexibility. I get a lot of organisations coming to me going, look, we need a new server. We've just hired one new staff member and we've got 2 new volunteers. And our server won't cut it anymore. So our computer people tell us that we're up for $10,000 for a new server. $10,000 for a new server to add 1 new user is pretty crazy. So the cloud software gives you the capacity to add users up and down as you need without having to invest in that hardware. You'll never get to a point where Microsoft will turn around and go, no, you've got 12 users and you can't add a 13th no matter what. Reliability. You're not on a special not-for-profit Office 365 version that Microsoft have especially for you. You're on the same version of Office 365 that people like BHP Billiton, Rio Tinto pay Microsoft thousands, millions of dollars to provide to them. So you're hosted with guaranteed service, multiple data centers. So these days there's one in Melbourne and there's one in Sydney. There's others around the world, but these days Australian data is stored in the 2 Australian data centres and automated backups. There's a 99.99% uptime agreement. So that means that it will be up 99.99% of the time. And Microsoft actually have a public website where you can see what their uptime rate is like. And it's generally a bit better than that. It's about 99.9999999. So pretty good. But Microsoft have a vested interest in making sure that that stays up constantly, because there's financial penalties in there for their big corporate clients. You're on exactly the same service with no cost. And the other really good thing is that it's always up to date. Now, that may seem like it's not that important, but it makes sure that all of your users are on the same version, which means that all of your users are going to be seeing the same interface. And if you're the person in the office that is the Excel whiz, and somebody rings you up and says, how do I do this? You can look at your screen and know that the buttons will be in the same place for them, and you can walk them through it, rather than, oh, just click on this button, oh, that button's not there, which is a pretty common headache. The other headache that we find a lot is organizations where everybody's on a different version of Office, so you send a Word document and the Word document looks slightly different on everybody's different computers. Because we're always up to date and we're all on the same version, that's very easy to manage. So all of those things for me add up to peace of mind. We don't have to stress about when the server's going to fall over. We don't have to stress about having somebody maintain the server 24/7, and we don't have to stress about our server software becoming end of life and having to spend a significant amount of money to shift away from that server. So what more do we get when it comes to specifically Microsoft Office in the cloud? Well, the first thing is that you can access your data wherever you want it. So you can write a document on your computer, it gets stored in Office 365, and then if you walk out the door of the office and somebody rings you and says, oh, there's a typo in the report that you just sent me, you can open it up on your mobile phone, make the edit, save it back to the cloud, and they'll be able to get that instantly. You get centralized document storage for your organization. We'll talk in a minute about OneDrive for Business, and we'll talk a little bit about SharePoint. Both of those will store your documents in the cloud. They'll back it up for you, and you can share them with your colleagues. And we'll demo that a little bit as well, but it just means that you've always got that storage in the cloud. Office in the cloud enables online collaboration, and we'll work on a shared document in a minute, but also sharing meeting minutes, sharing screens, video conferencing, and a lot more. You get automated backups, and you don't have any need to run your own servers. So some of you probably run a Microsoft Exchange server at the moment. You might run a Microsoft SharePoint server. Some of you might even be lucky enough to run your own Link server or Skype for Business server. We don't need to do that anymore. We can use Office 365, we can leverage Microsoft servers, and that means that we don't have to pay to run the server, we don't have to pay for the server licenses, and we don't have to pay somebody to administer that for us. The great thing about Office in the cloud, I haven't got on the slide, is that because Microsoft have put all of this in the cloud at the same time, everything talks to each other. So you'll find the more that you go through it, there are a lot of links in between different products, like being able to share meeting minutes from a meeting in Outlook into OneNote, being able to look at your Exchange calendar in Skype for Business, etc. We'll go through some more practical examples in a minute. So, what is Office 365? We talked a little bit before, but here's a very graphical example. So, it's still Microsoft Office. You've still got, I've got a pen, I've got a laser pointer. You've still got Microsoft Office, same as you've always had. Now you'll notice there that it says Excel, PowerPoint, Word and Outlook. If you use Access databases aren't really supported in Office 365. There are ways of migrating them to SharePoint and alternatives, but Microsoft Access isn't part of Office Online. If you use Publisher is not part of Office Online, and we'll talk a little bit more about the alternatives in a minute. But you get Office Online, plus you get all of this other advanced functionality. So you get business class email with an Exchange server. You get file sharing through OneDrive for Business and SharePoint. You get high definition video conferencing with Skype for Business. You get technical support. There's a phone number that you can ring up. There's an email portal. You get that 99.9% uptime service level agreement that I was talking about before, that they generally improve upon. Relatively simple IT management. There's a web portal where you can go into to add and remove users, change passwords, things like that. And you've also got access to your files anywhere that you need them, which is great. I mean, there are a couple of little security things I'd probably mention there, whereas, you know, if your data is available from anywhere, anyone can access it from anywhere. So it's pretty important that organizations have good security policies, good password policies before you make the move to Office 365. I mean, we've had organizations where before they've moved to Office 365, they share a single username and password to all the computers. Not a great policy when you're moving to Office 365. And having a password of password 123 might be okay when it's just for a computer sitting on your desk, but when that is available to the internet, not the most secure password that you could adopt. So let's look at some of those in a little bit more detail. So we started with Exchange. A lot of you are probably already using Exchange. So Exchange is Microsoft's mail server essentially. So you get powerful web-based email. It's not on your premises anymore. If you've got a server on your premises, it's stored up in Microsoft's cloud. You get online access to it. There's a Outlook web client that you can access it through. Shared calendars. If you're not already using shared calendars, they're brilliant. If I want to set a meeting with Sean, I can open up Sean's calendar on my computer. I can see when he's free, and rather than ask him for a particular time that he wants to set a meeting, I know when he's free and I can set one. But it's also really useful if you have shared assets. So that might be a laptop, it might be a data projector. There's even a couple of rooms is a big one. A couple of organizations I know even use them for like pool vehicles. If you've got a vehicle pool and you want to be able to book those out. So you can manage those, know who's booked them. You know, if Fred's booked a car for the week and you really need it, and you know Fred's going to stay in your town and he lives a 5-minute walk away, maybe you can go over and have a chat to Fred and go, I probably need that car a bit more than you, Fred. Apologies to anyone on the webinar whose name is Fred. Hopefully you're okay with that. Exchange gives you 50 gigabytes of mail storage per user, which in general is enough for most organizations. You know, there's a couple that have weird requirements that might be an exception, but I've worked at Connecting Up for about 5 years this week, and my mailbox is under 5 gigabytes, and I deal in a lot of big design files. So 50 gig is generally pretty easy, and Microsoft only seem to be increasing that. You get access to your Exchange email via mobile apps. If you've got an iPhone, you can download the Outlook mobile app because it's actually a really good email and calendar app these days. Microsoft basically just went and bought the best email program for mobile devices and rebadged it Outlook and continue to develop it. But you can also just use your Exchange account as an account on your iPhone, no problems at all. And of course, we have very good security and privacy implementations here. You can see in the screenshot there that it's recognized that somebody's trying to put a credit card number in an email. Tells you that that's probably not a great idea. There's also anti-spam tools in Exchange as well.
We do have a question, Ryan. We've got one from Shala who asks, do remote users need to have Office 365 on their own computer to be added to conferencing?
No, you can set up a Skype for Business conversation, which is my next slide. You can set up a Skype for Business conversation and they can connect via a web link, and they can just connect through a web browser, and that works just fine. All right, so no more questions at this point, so let's actually talk about Skype for Business. If you're not familiar with Skype for Business, it used to be called Link. Microsoft bought, and before that it was Office Communicator something. Microsoft bought Skype, and we had this great conversation with people. It's like, okay, what's Link? Well, you know Skype? Yep, it's kind of like Skype for business. And then that kind of caught on at Microsoft, and they started calling it Skype for Business. The idea behind Skype for Business, I mean, it is Skype, basically. So if you're familiar with Skype, you get similar functionality. But the thing that I really like about Skype for Business is because it's integrated as part of Office 365, you get real-time presence information. So at the moment, Sean and I are in a meeting, and Skype for Business can check our Exchange calendar and go, oh, you're in a meeting. So in a minute when I show you Skype for Business, it'll show Sean's in a meeting. Great, okay. I'm probably not going to get a response if I message Sean while he's in his meeting. So I'll wait until afterwards. You can see here, this bloke here's got the red line next to him, so he's in a meeting. He's in this meeting, actually. This bloke here's got a green line next to him, which means that he is online and he is using his computer. So if I message him, he's probably going to respond. Hopefully he'll respond. Now this lady here's got a yellow line, and what the yellow line means is she hasn't got anything in her calendar, but she hasn't used her computer for 15 minutes. So she might have stepped out of the office quickly. She might be in the lunchroom making coffee. Whatever she might be doing, she's not at her computer. So I could try and message her, but I'm probably not going to get an instant response. Now, this is really good for messaging people and going, hey, have you got a minute? Quickly having a conversation. It's also really good for geographically dispersed organisations. We've worked with a lot of organisations that are national, and they use this to connect all of their individual branches. The other thing it's great with is you can actually use Office 365 with your volunteers, and some organisations, they might only have, say, 5 or 10 staff, and their 5 or 10 staff have Office 365, but they have Office 2013 on their computer. And then all of their volunteers have free Office 365 accounts, and you know they might have 100, 1,000 volunteers all over the country. And so to make sure that those volunteers remain engaged with the organisation, they can get set up on Skype for Business, and they can still talk to people within the organisation. It's worked really well for them. You can do instant messaging, you can do voice calls, and you can do high definition video chat. Now that group HD chat, it says here up to 5 people, but we were talking to somebody at Microsoft recently, and they obviously use this technology quite a bit within their organization. They've had 100 people on it just fine. If you're trying to bring in 100 video feeds over a standard ADSL connection, it's not going to work particularly well, but It works fine for 5 people. If you've got a good internet connection, you'll be able to get more on. That'll be fine. There's also mobile apps for Skype for Business for Windows Phone, Android, and iOS. And so if somebody rings you for a voice chat via Skype for Business, your iPhone will ring, for example, and you can answer the call there, which is really weird the first time it happens, but it is actually really useful. Where this builds on top of Skype, in addition to the presence information, is some of the screen sharing functionality. So I can share a screen with a colleague, and I can choose just to share a particular window. So a practical example is we've got a colleague in the office. Some of you may have spoken to Tina. Tina's really good at Microsoft Excel. So I'm not so good at Excel. I can do basic things, but she's awesome at all the weird formulas. So I can share my screen with Tina and go, hey Tina, can you just help me with this formula? But I can just share the Excel window, so she can't access my files, she can't change my settings, she can only work in Excel. So I give her control of that window. She can go in, she can set the formulas that she needs to set for me, and we run them, make sure everything's all good, and then I can revoke control, so she no longer has access to create any mischief. Security is a big thing here, and that works very, very well. The other thing that works well is the virtual whiteboard. You know, it's great to be able to get a group of people into a room and work on a whiteboard, plan out things, but sometimes that's not possible. You've got staff everywhere, whatever the scenario is. So you can have a virtual whiteboard. If you've got a Microsoft Surface or something like that, you can write on the whiteboard with your pen. The other thing that you can do is you can put images in there, you can put text in there, you can do lots of different things. And of course, we were talking before, you can invite external people to join via a web app. There's the ability to record your conversations, document your instant message conversations. There's a lot of functionality in Skype for Business that doesn't exist in Skype that is required from a business sense. So it works very well. All right. So let's have a bit of a look at the plans just to make sure everything's crystal clear. Now, the important thing to note here is that Microsoft donate 2 plans. They donate Office 365 Non-Profit Business Essentials, and they donate Office 365 Non-Profit E1 or Enterprise 1. Both of those plans don't include Office, the desktop client. They do include Office Online, which I'll show you in a minute. Now, if your organization already has, I almost said Office 2013. If your organization has Office 2013, great. If your organization has Office 2016, great. Those existing licenses will be able to work just fine with Office 365. No problems at all. Our organization is actually on Office 365 Non-Profit E1, and all of our staff have Office 2013 Professional Plus on their computers. We haven't quite got around to upgrading to 2016 yet. Hopefully we will. But it works just fine with Office 365. If you want the Office client, the desktop client, some people will, some people won't. You can get the Office 365 Non-Profit Business Premium or the Office 365 Non-Profit E3. Both are available at a pretty significant discount, so $2.80 per user per month for Business Premium and $7.60 for E3. The alternative to that, if you don't need the other functionality that comes along with those plans, is that you can request a donation of Office 2013 or Office 2016 through the donations program, the Connecting Up or the TechSoup New Zealand donations program, and use Office 365. Use that the same as you've always used it, install it on your machines, and away you go. If you're using an earlier version of Office, 2010 will work in general, but I would probably suggest that you upgrade to a newer version. Anything before 2010, I would just suggest you upgrade. Bits and pieces will work, but you'll miss out on some of the best features. So there are key differences between non-profit business essentials or non-profit business and non-profit enterprise. One of them is Active Directory integration. So if your organization uses Active Directory, needs Active Directory integration with Office 365, then you will need to use the enterprise range. There's also some other features as part of E3 that you may require in terms of being able to interact with an on-premise server, some email archiving features, a few different things. I would probably say 90 to 95% of the organizations that we work with are on E1. Just to give you an idea of what may be the right fit for you, there are some organizations on E3, organizations that are international, and IT staff don't necessarily have access to their machines to install or upgrade software. Quite often go for E3 and go for the click to run Office installer so that they don't need to get the machines in to install it. So there is a range of different considerations when you pick your plan. They're a little bit less than they used to be. I mean, Office 365 non-profit business used to be limited to 25 users. Microsoft have now increased that to 300. So for a lot of people, that's not a big consideration. But if you are on E1 and you've got unlimited users, then you may want to think about whether you expand your use of Office 365 to your team of volunteers. And depending on how big your organization is, that could be a lot of volunteers. So before we move on to a bit of a demo, does anyone have any more questions about the plans, about how it works? Sean's telling me no, but if you shoot them through now, we'll go through them quickly. No, okay, well if they come through, we'll go through them when they come through. So how do I get Office 365? You can access the donations direct from Microsoft's website, so microsoft.com/Office365 nonprofits. Hopefully everyone on the webinar is already registered with our various donation programs, already validated. So if you've done that, it should be a pretty easy process. If you haven't registered with our programs, you will need to, so that we can get the data that we can get to tell Microsoft that you're a bona fide charity and you're ready to go. We'll send that link out at the end of the webinar with the recording and the slides as well. The other question we get quite a bit is, am I actually ready for Office 365? And we've partnered with our friends at Info Exchange to provide an Office 365 readiness assessment. Again, these links will be in the slide pack that you get at the end. And the readiness assessment is designed to help you understand if you're actually ready for Office 365, because there are a few little things that you need to have in place to make Office 365 really work for you. If you're not ready for Office 365, what do you need to get ready? You know, the big things here are things like internet connectivity. If you've got, you know, if you've got 5 staff and you've got a standard ADSL connection and you want to start out just by using email, then you're pretty much ready to go. If you've got 30 staff and they all want a high definition video conference all day, and you've got a standard ADSL connection, you may need to upgrade that internet, or you will need to upgrade that internet before you move. This process is also useful for helping you understand what you're actually going to use in Office 365. Now, I've gone through a lot of different stuff that it can do today, and we're going to demo a lot more in a minute, but it's important to note that you don't need to use all of it, well, ever really, but you don't need to use all of it straight away either. Some organizations will get Office 365 And they'll start with email because email is the most critical thing for their organization. Great, you start with email and then add additional features and functionality as the value is there for your organization. So you might go email, then you might go Skype for Business, and then you might start using OneDrive for Business, and then you might start using SharePoint. There's a lot of different steps here that you can take, and every organization will be slightly different. The other thing is that the readiness assessment will also give you an understanding of how much it will cost to transition. So InfoExchange will provide you with a quote as part of this process, and then you can engage InfoExchange to do your migration for you, or you can work with your existing IT partner and have an idea of how much it might cost, or you can use that figure as an idea so that you can move into the market and see what's available for you. All right, now before we go into the demo, have we got any more questions, Sean? No, easy. All right. Cool. So, welcome to Office 365. You still see my screen, Sean? Yep, beautiful. All right. In case you're wondering, this is Windows 10. And I'm using Microsoft Edge here, which is the new Microsoft browser replacing Internet Explorer. I should take a sec just to say that day-to-day I use Chrome quite a bit. Office 365 works perfectly in Chrome. I also have no one from Microsoft on the webinar, hopefully. I have a Mac at home, and my Mac using Safari, perfect. I haven't had a single issue with Office 365 in any browser. Microsoft have done a really good job of making sure this supports a range of different devices, and even some of the more advanced collaboration features I'll show you in a minute, they work on Mac and PC. If you've got Office for Mac 2011, they work, but they're not great. But if you upgrade to the new version, Office for Mac 2015, they're all good. So, part of Office 365, I'm going to go through the web features primarily here, and we can go back through the desktop stuff as well. But Office 365 is primarily online. So I can go to this website, portal.office.com. I've already logged in, so it takes me straight to a page where I can got all of my buttons for all of my different Office features. And it gives me warnings and loud noises when I get email. Now, day to day, I don't generally use this website. I use the Outlook desktop client, as I'm sure a lot of you do. There's no need to use the website if you don't want to. And in fact, we at Connecting Up, we have staff that never look at the website. Whereas we have other staff that prefer the website. So you've got a lot of flexibility there to do what you need to do, basically. So I can log in here. Hopefully there's nothing controversial if I click on Mail. So if I go to Mail, it's opening a web version of Outlook. Now, the web version of Outlook these days pretty much looks like, oh good, nothing controversial. Pretty much looks like a web version of Outlook. Microsoft, one of the best things I think in terms of learning to use Office 365, Microsoft have done a pretty good job of replicating their desktop interfaces in a website. So I have email here that works just like normal email. I have the same functionality. That is a great looking newsletter, Sean. Sean puts together these newsletters and he makes them very pretty. So I can read email just like I usually can, which is useful if you need to use a different computer and you don't have access to Outlook, or you just prefer the website. I still have access to my folders. So you can see here I have a lot of folders. I also have access to shared folders. So this is my mailbox here, but if I scroll down, you'll see here's our customer care inbox, here's our TechSoup New Zealand customer care inbox, and here's our membership inbox. So I can check those and respond to those from the web client, and that works just fine. I can create emails, I can create calendar invites, all the same functionality that you'd expect out of Outlook, except it's in a web browser. If I go to my calendar, same story. I get a calendar that very much mirrors the desktop experience. Here you can see, hopefully there's nothing dodgy here. Here you can see that I am able to pull up Kate's calendar. So I've got access to everyone's calendar on here. You can see that I'm on the kitchen roster this week and I had to go and buy tea. I know nothing about tea, so that was fun. But it gives me access to the calendar. I can look at Kate's calendar and I go, well, if I want to set up a meeting with Kate, Thursday morning would probably be a really good time, except that I'm going to be on annual leave, so good time for her, not a great time for me. But this afternoon after 4 o'clock is probably fine. So I can also access all of my other colleagues' calendars, all down the side there. The interesting thing is I can also access external people's calendars. So Marcus actually works for Info Exchange. Hopefully he's okay with me pulling this up. So we have enabled a link between Info Exchange and Connecting Up so that I can view his calendar. So I can see here that he's in New Zealand this week. Probably not a great time to ring his Australian mobile number and ask him a question. But I can create those links with friendly third-party organisations. It requires a little bit more custom work, but it can be done. Now, that's Outlook. Actually, one other thing, just the meeting room. I'll just show you that this shows when the room is busy, basically, so when I can book in meetings in the meeting room. So we can see here that at the moment the room is busy because Sean and I are sitting in here. But it gives me an idea of when I can book the meeting room so that I'm not booking it over somebody else's meeting. Great functionality, but at the end of the day, it's very much similar to Outlook on a desktop. And Outlook 2016 looks even more like this. So nothing that should surprise too many people. OneDrive, or OneDrive for Business, is probably my favorite part of Office 365. I use it quite a bit, as you can see by all the files that are in here, and I have all of my files backed up to OneDrive for Business. And what this means for me is that if something happens to my my computer, as you know, accidents can happen, all of my files are backed up on the cloud, and I can go in and I can edit them and I can open them and I can access them from different computers. You can also see straight away here when a folder or a file was modified, whether I'm sharing it with anyone, who I'm sharing it with. Hey Sean, we're sharing a folder. And who was the last person to modify it. So this is really powerful stuff because some of you might already be using Dropbox. The important thing to note with a free Dropbox account is that the organization doesn't own that data. The user that has the free Dropbox account owns that data. Whereas this is organization data. It's all stored in the Connecting Up Office 365. So if I left the organization, this information doesn't leave with me. If I leave, the organisation still has access to the work that I was working on. They still have access to my files. When I leave, they'll change the password so that somebody else can access them, or they'll allocate them to a different user, whatever they need to do. But the important thing is that the organisation doesn't lose all of the work that I've built up over the last few years. Everything's saved. With Dropbox, I get quite a few calls from organisations going, Wilma left, Fred and Wilma, a Flintstones thing when I do these examples, it's weird, but it's okay. Wilma left, it wasn't on the greatest terms. She's disconnected access to the files that we had stored in Dropbox. How can we get them back? Well, the short answer is you can't. The slightly longer answer is if you are really nice to Wilma, she may give you access, but from an organizational risk perspective, it's actually not a very good idea. Now, the other great thing about OneDrive, other than, well, a couple of great things. One is that we get a terabyte of storage per user, which is more than enough for most people. Usually find that there's somebody that needs to go a bit above and beyond, but more than enough for most people. The other thing is, because it's built into Office 365, which includes Office Online, I can click on the file and, assuming I don't suffer from demo problems, there we go. Basically, every time you do a demo, something will break. So, but it's open in Office Online for me, or Word Online. This pretty much looks like the read-only view in Microsoft Word, which is pretty good. If I click Edit Document, I get two options here. I can edit it in Word, or I can edit it in Word Online. And it tells me straight away what the difference is. So editing in Word is going to give me the full functionality of Microsoft Word. It's actually going to open it in Word on my computer. If I edit it in Word Online, I can make quick changes right in the browser, and they're instantly backed up to Office 365. So if I click on Edit in Word Online, it reloads the page, and here we go. So a couple of things here. This interface, pretty much the same as Microsoft Word. There'll be a couple of little changes, and I'd say that 90% of the functionality that you can get in the desktop version of Word exists in the online version of Word. It's that good these days. So I've still got my styles, I can still add my comments, I can still track changes, just it's done in a web browser. The other thing is you can see up here that Sean is editing this document as well. And that's one thing we haven't really emphasized yet. I can edit these documents with other people. So I've elected to share this file from my OneDrive for Business folder and given Sean access. Now, I'm sure that all of you have at some point had to work on a file together. And if you've got a file server at the moment, it usually involves accessing the file, finding that somebody's locked it, being unable to make those edits because the file is locked. So you make a duplicate, and then at some point you have to merge things together, and it all gets quite annoying. Kind of like Sean telling everybody my favorite song. It's not that at all, but that's okay. So it's really frustrating experience working on a file together in the current climate, basically. Office 365, we can work on it together. And Office will make it so that I can't, like it locks out the word that Sean is editing at the moment, so I can't instantly write over Sean's edits. It also shows me with this little red icon here, that's where Sean is in the document. So I shouldn't edit right there at the moment because he's busy making my document look hideous, which, considering he's a designer, is probably not a great advertisement of his skills, but that's okay. We can work on it at the same time. Now that functionality doesn't go away if I bring it down to the desktop. So, you know, I'm a desktop kind of guy. I don't really edit in Word Online very often. So I can just hit open in Word and it's saving my document and tells me it's opening the document in Word. And if you could see both of my screens, you would see the splash screen on Word. I'll just drag this over here. Here's my document. Now, you can see that it says updates available. When I'm accessing a file from Office Online, the save function no longer saves. It synchronizes. So if I hit save, it's got a little circle there, it's now synchronized the changes that Sean's been making. So I can see that. I can also see here that more updates are available. And what it will do is it will lock out paragraph by paragraph where other people are working. So I know that Sean's editing the document because it says down here Sean's editing the document, and we can both work on it together. We can both work on it on our computers. That's fine. And there aren't conflicts because I can see what he's doing as he's doing it. I know where he is. Now, if I'm working on a grant application, this is brilliant because I don't have to wait until it's all merged together to find that a couple of people have used different tone of voice and we need to go back and edit that. I can see straight away that, Sean, we just need to rewrite that paragraph because it doesn't really strike the tone that I want, and we can take steps to address it straight away rather than have a big job at the end. Now, of course, I don't actually want those changes. My favorite song is not Dancing Queen, I'm sorry. So what I will do is show you another cool thing, which we use quite a bit actually because we use a lot of demo files in Office 365 for these kind of presentations. And when we're doing demos, versioning becomes really important. We basically, like you've just seen, we destroy files on a regular basis just to sort of show you how far you can take that functionality. So I can go to my Office 365 webinar folder, there's my file. I can see that it was modified a minute ago by Sean. Sean, are you still in the file? Can you get out of the file, please? The versioning doesn't work if somebody else is still editing the file. Because then it tries to create conflicts. He's out, good. So I can click on these three little dots, which in Office 365 basically mean a little submenu. I can see when it was last changed, who it's shared with. I can get a direct link, share it with more people. In this case, what I want is the version history. And you can see here, it's a different time zone, but same result. I can see the file sizes, so I know that Sean added a different file, so this is the file I want. If I click on that date and time, it's actually going to open the file for me so I can check that that's the one that I want. But if I click this little arrow here, I can restore it back to that original file. And I think it still suspects Sean's in the file. I might just refresh this window just to make sure. All right, you should be out now. The great thing is it doesn't just overwrite it, it creates a new version. And hopefully it'll work this time. Yes. Nope. Okay. That's how you do it anyway. It doesn't work at the moment because I'm trying to demo it, and as soon as you try and show somebody something, it breaks. But yeah, because we're trying to do it where we've got everybody on at the same time, it can sometimes take a minute to sync up. But if I restored that file, it will create a version 11 of the file. So if I've updated that file and somebody needs something from the previous version, we do it by mistake, whatever it might be, we can still go back and check the older version and see what it was about the old version that we wanted and make those edits as appropriate. And that doesn't just work for Word files, it also works for Excel files. So I can open Excel online. Oh, we're having a good day today. All right. Let's try mail. Okay. No? Okay. So, our OneDrive files, we can also sync down to our local device, which means that we get offline access to all of these files if we're on a plane, not on the internet, whatever it might be. So I can edit them while I'm offline, and when I get back to an internet connection, it will try and sync them back up. And if somebody else has edited them at the same time, then we can see what the issues are and we can merge them then. So it's all pretty easy. Now, speaking of pretty easy, we got Excel to work. Again, the interface looks very familiar, which is good. Now, one thing that we can do that this came up just as an example that somebody basically requested from us. If I create a new file, I can create Word, Excel, PowerPoint documents straight in Office 365. I can create an Excel survey. Now this is functionality that just wouldn't be able to exist in Office before it was online. So have we got any questions at the moment, Sean?
Yeah, Ryan, we've got a few questions, but more around clarification from the plans from earlier and what's available. Yeah. So from Karen asks, or she says rather, sorry, that she has a $2.80 per month plan with Office 365. However, she's a Mac user, so she uses Mac Mail, reminders, and calendars. Does that mean that she's missing out on some of the benefits of Office 365?
Maybe is the easy answer. It probably depends on whether everybody else in your organisation is using a Mac as well. We have a couple of Mac users here, and they generally use the web client actually, but the new version of Outlook's pretty good. It's a tricky question because it depends on how you've implemented it. If you've got Apple Mail, calendars, and the reminders set up properly with Office 365, then you're probably not missing out on much. But if they're not set up to use Office 365, they're using iCloud or something, then you are missing some of the collaboration features. So if you use Outlook, then you get some of the integration with OneNote, you'll get some of the integration with Exchange, shared tasks, shared reminders, things like that.
Thanks, Ryan. And just to continue that discussion, if Karen does upgrade to Word for Mac 2015, will that integrate without any problems?
Yes, and 2015 is so much better than 2011. I'm sure Microsoft wouldn't mind me saying that. The Office 2015 for Mac is very, very similar to Office 2016 for PC, and it works a lot better in a lot of different areas than Office 2011. So if you're already on the $2.80 nonprofit business premium plan, then you can just download that through your Office 365 console. That's included as part of your subscription. If you are not on Office 365, then you can just request that as a donation through the donations program.
Thank you, Ryan. I've got a question from Avi. Does the OneDrive storage allocation per user add up to the company's SharePoint document repository storage overall?
No, SharePoint is separate. So SharePoint is slightly more complicated in how you calculate your storage. Your organization's SharePoint storage is 10 gigabytes plus 500 megabytes per user. And if you need additional storage above and beyond that, it is available for purchase. I don't know what the going rate is, I'm sorry. So it just depends on how many files that your organization has and how you want to implement it. I was speaking to somebody last week who is implementing their full organization file storage on OneDrive for Business, and they're not using any SharePoint storage. And that was partly to do with, well, it was a business decision by their IT folk, basically. But for most people, that SharePoint storage is just fine.
Thanks, Ryan. Next question is from Paul, and Paul asks, on the portal, and I think he might be referring to the dashboard in Office 365 online, it reads Mail. How has this changed to Outlook?
The icon, basically. So if I go back, you'll see it's the same icon as Outlook. Mail, Outlook, I don't really know why they decided to make them slightly different, but these are the same people that called 4 different things Office 365, so we can't expect them to get their naming policies exactly right.
No worries, thanks, Ryan. And we've got a follow-up question from Paul that was just asking, do you have to download something? But I think you might have answered that, clarified that question just then. Okay, thank you. The next one was from Karen, just another matter of clarification around how does she actually access Skype for Business?
Karen's on a Mac, isn't she? So Karen, because you're on a Mac, I'd need to double check whether the Skype for Business client is out for Mac yet. If it's still not, you can use Link. So if you're already there, if I click on nope. I'll get out of Excel Online. So I'll show you Skype for Business in a sec too. So I can go Not sure why it's trying to sign me into instant messaging. Hello. All right. If you click on your name there, it's got a list of your applications. Get rid of Delve because I don't really want to demo that at the moment. All right, let's go back here. So, click on my settings. I have a link here that says software. So it'll give me access to all of the software that I'm licensed for. So because I'm on a Windows computer, it tells me Skype for Business, and here's the version that I can install. I can get the web scheduler, so I can do it all from the web browser. I can download OneDrive for business, if I'm using SharePoint. If you're on a Mac, Karen, if you're on a Mac, there is a OneDrive for Business client that I can give you more information about. It's in beta at the moment, but they're working on it. But this is where you can access. So if I had an Office license, this is where it would be. If I open, this is my Skype for Business. So this is my contact list. So you can see I've got them grouped. So I have my connecting up contacts. Then I have my info exchange contacts. Now I can see the Marcus is away. The way that Marcus works though, I know that Marcus is probably on his mobile device. I can see Richard is busy at the moment. You can also see here, not hiding anything, that most of my connecting up colleagues don't use Skype for Business just yet. We've always been big Skype users and we haven't quite migrated to Skype for Business. There are a few of us that use it regularly, but you can see here that I'm in a meeting, and it tells me that. I can look at my historical conversations, and I can look at any meetings that I've had on here as well. It's my meetings today actually, aren't they? All right, so no more questions at this stage. We've actually run out of time as well, but if anybody would like to see anything else demoed, then happy to spend a couple more minutes demoing things if you'd like. Main thing is the Office 365, when you go to that Office 365 nonprofits website, you can register for a 30-day trial and you can log on there, you can play with it, you can see what it can do and work out if it's a good fit for your organization. Now I've given you an extreme example today working through the web browser for everything. It's not realistic for most people. Most people are just not going to do that. So my day-to-day, I do everything through Office 2013, email through Outlook, Word documents, whatever, but all of my files stay stored in OneDrive for Business. They all sync up to the cloud so that they're all backed up for me and I've always got access to them. So, and I think that's probably how a lot of organizations are going to go with their own implementations. So do try out the free trial, and if you are interested in making the jump, then the readiness assessment is an excellent first step.
Thanks, Ryan. We do have a request from Peter. Are you able to show quickly Yammer as well as the Excel surveys?
I certainly can. Let's go back here. I'll go back to the See, this always works until you want to demo it. And then, so we'll start with the survey. That's probably the easiest thing to show you. No survey demo. And like I started saying before, this is something that you can't do with a traditional version of Microsoft Office because the files are on your computer, they're on your network, whatever, it's difficult to do. Here, what I can actually do is I can create a survey. So this survey, I'm going to call it Ryan's magnificent Office 365 survey. Please complete my survey and you might win a prize. And so first question here, and it's all a bit of a wizard, so it's easy to step through. So my first one is going to be name, my response type, just text, that's fine. I require that. And the default answer, if you don't answer it, is going to be Captain Awesome. And I'm going to add a new question. Is Office 365 amazing? And this is a yes/no question. Yes, I require that. And the default value is obviously yes. And that's enough for now. So now that I've finished my survey, I can click the Share Survey button and I can share that with whoever I want to take that survey. So here's my fantastic URL that I can share the survey with. Copy, paste. That's what my survey looks like. So it's not the prettiest survey in the world, but it is very functional. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to put my name in as Ryan. Is Office 365 amazing? Well, yes. Click submit. Response was received. If I go back here, there's my response, automatically imported into Office 365. I've actually shown this to people and people have different sort of responses to it, essentially. I had one organization that looked at that functionality and went, you know what, that's not great for our surveys, but that is really good for our membership registration form. They had a registration form where they just collected some basic data about their members, and then they contacted them about their registration fee. So all of their membership data, they didn't have very many members, was in an Excel spreadsheet. Not the greatest use of technology, but it worked very well for them. So they were able to use that survey functionality to basically create a membership sign-up form. And you can share that wherever you need to share it, basically. And if you share the link for the survey form, the people who complete the survey don't actually get access to the survey data, only access to complete the form. So that's very useful. If you do use this kind of functionality, you can create formulas that will automatically create charts as the responses come in, and more advanced analysis, whatever you need to do, you can analyze it in real time, basically. So that's Excel surveys. Other part of that question was Yammer. I haven't really mentioned it because most organizations don't use it, to be perfectly honest. Yammer is kind of like your own organization's version of Facebook. I use it so rarely, I'm not even sure what's going to happen now that I've clicked on the icon. Hopefully something. I generally find it is best for larger organizations. Oh, here you go. There is some stuff. Great. So you can see here what it can be used for. So we went to the NDIA conference in Brisbane 2 weeks ago, and you can see there's a photo up there. And Sean's gone in and gone, hey, that's great. Well, he said neat, but you know, same thing. Like it, reply to it, and you get access to replies, same as Facebook. You will get pinged with the responses. There's a mobile app for your phone, and you can praise staff. So Daniel's been praised for being cool. It's Really, the big organisations are the ones that benefit the most from this, as well as the geographically dispersed ones. But it is a way for savvy organisations to reduce email in the office, basically. You can have different groups. You might have an Adelaide branch group and have all of your stuff from your Adelaide branch in there. If you've got multiple branches, yeah, there's a range of different ways that you can use it, but it's around sharing content, polls. So it may be, depends on your organisation, you might use this to find out where you're going for lunch on Friday. I know we usually have group lunches on Friday. You might use it to share photos. I've seen the best example I've seen of the use of Yammer, I think, was a Microsoft example, where they had a staff member who watched a document, 60 Minutes I think it was, a lady who had lost her husband in the MH370 flight, and the thing that she was talking about on the TV was, you know, they'd just been on a great family holiday together, and he had all of the photos stored on his Microsoft Surface. She'd really like to be able to get those photos back. And this Microsoft staff member was so moved by that that she went, well, what can we do about this? And being an organization as large as Microsoft, you don't necessarily know who the right person is to go to ask that question. So you put it on Yammer, and all of a sudden a range of different people went and started tagging in different people within their organization, going, you know, this person will be able to help you with that. The CEO or the managing director of Microsoft Australia came in, went, yes, we have a next of kin policy. That's something that we can work with. And all of a sudden, this small thing from something somebody had seen on TV became a helpful resolve thread where the right people were connected to the person who'd lost her husband, and they were able to get the photos accessed and support that customer. So that is really where this comes into its own. If you use Office 365, you're under no obligation to use it whatsoever. If you don't think it's a good use for your organization, that's fine. If you've only got 5 staff, then it's probably not. Again, it's not something that we use. We've got about 15 staff, but they're all in the one office. So, you know, if you had different offices and things, it might be something that would be more practical for you. All right. Well, if there are no more questions, we might finish up. Thanks for joining in. Sean will send out the slides soon with the links and things. And if you've got any more questions, feel free to get in touch.
Great. Thank you, Ryan, for presenting today, and thank you everyone for joining also. As stated, a link to the recording of the webinar and a copy of the slides will be sent to you all, and we'll also send a link to the Office 365 readiness assessment. If you have any further questions, please feel free to send them through to events@connectingup.org. And as always, don't forget to check out our website, newsletters, Facebook and Twitter for upcoming events and other information. So thanks again and enjoy the rest of your day.